Hey everyone, welcome to the Industry Show. I'm your host Nitin Bajaj, and joining me today is Zef Neemuchwala. Zef, welcome on the show.
Hi, Nitin. It's great to be here.
Great to have you here. Now let's start with who is Zef?
Well, I'm a dad, a husband, a designer, and a lifelong tinkerer who also likes shairi, which is a South Asian form of poetry. I actually grew up in India, Mumbai, uh, where I studied and worked, got my first degree, then moved to the UK for a master's, and then about 13 years ago, moved to sunny Southern California. I have degrees in accounting, and then I completely veered right, I guess, to design, and then finished an MBA. I've held jobs in manufacturing, in retail, in academia. I taught at a school of design and then consulting. I've always been entrepreneurial. I think even like when I was really young in school, I was running side businesses all the time, and I've set up and started businesses in India while I was in college, in the UK while I was doing my jobs, and here now in the US.
You are a tinkerer for sure, and you've moved around. Uh, we've known each other for a while. I don't know why it has taken us this long to do this together, but here we are. Let's talk about what is the Be a Maker Club. Tell us about the mission, the vision, and why do this? You could have been doing so many different things.
Well, okay, so I'll do the sort of formal bit for Be a Maker Club,
Sure.
right? Our mission is to bring back the skills of repairing and invention to this to this next generation. And our specific goal is to actually reduce the time it takes to create designs for 3D printing and 3D modeling. The vision, how it kind of all got together was really that we want to be more responsible. We want to kind of reduce the impact that we made as human beings on this planet through design. And it's actually not that difficult to do, and we used to do it, and now we are in a time period that's possible again. So the thing that really excites me about 3D printing and why I chose to do this is that if we can make our products where we consume them, the knock-on effects to both society economically are massive. I kind of like to say it's like it's like a sewing machine. In a house, you can make stuff with it. So the knock-on effect is you learn valuable economic skills and job skills, and then it also reduces transport emissions. It actually there's a study that says it reduces energy consumption by around 25%, which is massive. I mean, we're talking about global energy consumption, right? I mean, it's like a one-stop solution for a lot of things. So anyway, that's sort of what we do at Be a Maker Club, what we're aiming to do.
Awesome. Give us the sense of size and scale. I know you have touched many lives and brought in a lot of children that have been energized by what they can accomplish, right? And giving them the power of, that hope, that dream that they can bring to life. So tell us a little more about the impact you've created.
Sure. So 3D printing is definitely one of those cool technologies that almost everybody is aware of, but we sort of struggling to use in our everyday lives. And sort of that's where the germ of this idea actually started. My daughter, who was 8 years at the time, started to say, like, I want to make something. And I was like, okay. And she said, well, I want to, and I was going to a community makerspace at the time. And so she was like, I want to make things the way you're doing it. And so in my head, I was like, might be just a thing. And, so I started to take her to craft classes and STEM classes. And then she really persisted with it. And so that's actually how this whole thing started. And then the facts supported it. The fact is that 3D printing has replaced 40% of traditional manufacturing. It's making impact in diverse industries, food, health, space. And I really felt that to truly take advantage, it needs to not just be substitution, in the sense that the people who are making with it right now are people who know what to make with traditional manufacturing. But the next generation can reimagine stuff from the ground up. So I know sort of that's a mixed answer, but really, our business right now is kind of has had a bit of a reset. So I explained how we started. So we actually started as a tutoring business model. And in the years leading up to early 2020, we worked in person tutoring kids in different size groups in a physical in-person setup. We had a van, we had trailers, so we'd go on location. We did all kinds of things, including very, very large events where we work with thousands of kids at a time, or this physical maker space. We'd go into school. So we worked with about 10,000 students or so in person. And then COVID kind of broke that model. And so for the last couple of years, I've been trying to figure out how do we replicate that type of impact in, that same pedagogy. How do we replicate that? And so that it can scale. And I would say our challenge, or like, I guess we're still bootstrapped. And now we've kind of gotten to a point that we, mocked up our technology. We've shown it to our customers. So some of the other hard bits are that in the previous version, we were a B2C model. Right. In this, we're a B2B model. And again, I'm just looking for scale because we feel like that's what we'll be able to enable. So we've gone back to, we currently have 3 LOIs. And so, yeah, that's where we're at. We're an early stage startup, building out our full technical team. We have some validation, and we're working towards product version 1 right now.
That's amazing. And, to be able to keep reinventing how you continue to make an impact on lives, and especially the young minds, is super exciting. Tell me about the biggest challenge you're facing as a business. You're reinventing,
Right.
kind of, at that juncture. What's that one big challenge?
Well, I mean, I guess this pivot has really opened up our biggest challenge in a lot of ways. And I've been through a couple of startup accelerator programs this year, and it kind of really highlighted what our challenge was. Our challenge really was that we're not able to build the technology ourselves, or at least not starting with that. So we're seeing a lot of other startups who are essentially like, to use a metaphor, they have the hammer and they're looking for a nail.
Right.
We know our nail. We're trying to build our hammer. And it's fun, but it's also like sometimes we'll end up chasing the wrong thing because we know exactly the problem we're solving, and we know how to solve it, and we're very good at solving it sort of in a human way. But trying to bring on the right technology, that's been a learning curve for us. So I'd say that's currently is our biggest challenge, but also what excites me is also our biggest opportunity.
Right.
Because so in some ways, like COVID has been obviously it's been a big factor in like reducing down our business model in the previous version, but it's also handed us one of our biggest opportunities. I mean, the world's opened up to learning, doing education electronically. People are comfortable with Zoom. So lots of people, there's been a massive rethink. And I know, almost everyone in the startup industry is at least aware there's a big growth, a big boom in edtech. And while there's a bit of a fallout right now, it is permanently changed. People have a new way of looking at learning. And that's massive right now. So.
True. You stole my next question and answered it. So thank you for taking work off of me.
Okay.
You're right. It's been a true inflection point in opening up a new plethora of ways in which we could not have imagined how education, how information, how that transformation was enabled, and pretty instantly, right? The world just it was almost like a switch was flipped.
Yes.
And we became accepting of this way of doing things that only a certain percentage of the population was using in the past. So I think we are better for it. We have moved as a community, as an entire generation, closer to being more connected in an online world. So it's, I think, all said, it's super exciting.
Definitely. I mean, I definitely think that this is like, and I'd say it's our responsibility to take
Mhm.
advantage of it and not
Yeah.
just kind of go back to our old ways, because, this kind of for on a mindset level, the rubber band has been stretched and it's
Yes.
not going to go back. And
Mhm.
and we should really, really leverage that, basically.
So true. Now, as we look forward, let's take a step back and, in your own journey, as an immigrant that has moved across continents and across different industries and different roles, what's one moment or one experience where things did not work out as you had expected, it failed, and you got a lesson out of it? And on
Oh,
the other extreme, something that blew your own mind and, gave you so much success that you didn't even know to anticipate or expect.
oh wow. I think my life is littered with failures.
All
I've
of ours are, right? It's the wisdom is in accepting them and saying, yeah, what
Yeah,
what did I learn from this?
sure. And it's been interesting, obviously, because I've moved different places, different
Mhm.
countries, and I've been fortunate that I've had the opportunity to change direction and stuff. But I'd say the one thing that definitely the big lesson that I'm learning to accept, and I'm saying this kind of like with a lot of difficulty. For some people, this might be easy to accept, but for me, it was a challenge because I'm at heart like my brain's wired for creativity and
Right.
emotions drive it.
Hmm.
And so I like to take ownership of the solution typically, right? Because I like to create things, right? And so while that's a strength, that it's also a big weakness if you're trying to run a business. So I have a lot of passion and I'll bring that to my business, but then I also need expertise,
Hmm.
right? And so that sort of has been my big lesson. And I'd say this is both my near-term and long-term lesson that I've learned is that I need to accept other people's opinions who might know more than me and also then can contribute significantly to my end solution. And I think that's sort of what I'm trying to say. As a design person, I'm used to taking charge of the entire end solution. But now in this situation, I need to sort of run my bit
Let
and
go.
then work with somebody else who's an expert in their bit and actually, work with them in that way where we can distribute ownership and
Mhm.
responsibility. So I would say definitely that's like I can't run my own AI. I understand the concept of it, but I can't do that. Right? I already know.
Okay.
So those are I would say that's my biggest lesson, definitely. And sorry, the next thing was you asked about what
Something
kind
that was way more successful than you had expected, or
of
just a success story, right? I mean,
right,
effectively,
right, right.
yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, this is going back, but I mean, I like this story because it's been extremely pivotal in who I have become. So, growing up in India, you kind of have doctor, engineer. That was the generation I'm from, doctor, engineer. And if you didn't get 100% marks, then you became an accountant.
Yeah.
So I didn't get 100% marks. So I was becoming an accountant. And I did. I finished and I got good marks in BCom. But secretly, I always wanted to become a designer. So I ended up like pursuing a course in IFT. But that was still, design in India at that time.
Right.
And I wanted to go abroad to basically learn more about design.
Mhm.
But I didn't have the money or the actual resources to pay for all of those things. So I kept writing letters and filling out applications. And every time they had a box, do you want a scholarship? I'd say yes and try to write something in there, right? So I kept doing that. I mean, at that time, this was still physical, handwritten stuff. So we're
Mhm.
talking about mailing it out, right?
Yeah.
So it's a very tangible experience. I literally hundreds, if not thousands of letters, right? Put up all my pocket money, whatever I was making on a side, everything was going towards literally post. Uh, but then I landed a scholarship that seemed unbelievable. In fact, it was so unbelievable that I thought that somebody is trying to scam me. because the scholarship paid for my ticket, it had allowances for housing, books, food, warm clothes, and travel.
Wow.
In fact, so and I'm saying that because what it did is it completely freed me up when I was doing that degree to, and I'm saying this as an achievement because it completely changed my worldview, right? And the other part about that's interesting is that when I went there, was obviously other Indian students, people had come to study, but a lot of them had taken loans and things, so they had to work jobs, whereas I didn't have to do any of that, so I could explore. So I truly got that I'm in a foreign country experience. I could go to museums, I could take picnics, I could meet, just try to live a life that was very different. And so it completely changed who I was as a person. It, brought a completely different understanding to me. That's why I count this as a very big deal. It was a massive achievement also, I thought. I mean, I never expected it. And I think that's why it was also that much more significant.
I love that story. And, the first part of it, which allowed you to fully immerse in that experience, right? The second is about the confidence and the validation that you get from having competed with a bunch of others for the same thing and getting that check, right? That this person is worth it.
Yes.
I think that confidence can take you places. And I think when you say that completely changed you, I think that validation may have had a role to play in that. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, I kind of hinted about the whole 100% mark thing, right? And in this, I essentially went to study. I did a master's of science in design and technology because I was interested in both those areas.
Right.
And I was only one of two people in that entire master's program to get a distinction. And I was, again, and I'm not doing a humble brag here. I'm just genuinely, why I'm saying I'm surprised is because I did realize I did a lot of work, but it didn't feel like work because my confidence was so high after getting, I think if I'd paid for that class, I would have probably done well still, but then I would have had that tension that I've got to perform, like there's a lot riding on this.
Right.
And because I had the scholarship, I was like enjoying and learning, and that, I think that's why I said it completely changed my worldview, because it was like one of those times I was like, this is also possible. Like you can do well, you can have fun, and it's not like you're not working hard, right? You're working very hard, but you don't have
just
that
flowing.
kind of, yes, and that's, I think that I'd never experienced that before. I'd never experienced a moment where, because for me, it was always like you're doing well because you're stressed out.
Correct.
Right. And so that's why I feel like this was such a pivotal moment for me personally.
Love it. I want to use that as a segue into my favorite part of the show, which is the one-line life lessons. And this in effect is a lesson and experience. So want to get more crisp around that and say, what are your one-line life lessons that you would like to share with us?
Okay, I'm gonna switch to Urdu for this first one-liner. It's something I have come up with. It's a quote by Alum Iqbal. It says, "खुदी को कर बुलंद इतना कि हर तकदीर से पहले खुदा बंदे से खुद पूछे बता तेरी रजा क्या है." Do you want me to translate?
You can. I understand it, but for our audience, yes.
I mean, essentially, it just says that a person should try to rise up and try to achieve so much that even before God writes their fate, God asks them, what do you want me to write? Basically, right? Because they become such, they achieve so much credibility. And so it's something I heard a long time ago, and it's kind of stood by me. The second is life lesson is simple is not always easy.
Yes.
The third one comes from my days doing clothing manufacturing. Measure twice, cut once.
Love that.
Then, how many do you want? Sorry.
As
Oh,
many as you have.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, then people, right? Do favors for people whenever you can, but without any expectation.
True.
If you have an expectation, you're not doing a favor.
True.
And at the same time, practice being nice. It's actually not difficult.
True.
And build a network of people wherever you go. Because if you if you did all the three things, you will end up being. And the last one, which I think I really want and I strive to do, is be real and be honest. Because believe it or not, whatever you're going through, other people go through similar things or something as difficult. So that's
True.
it.
Love those. And especially the measure twice, cut once. That's my favorite. Zef, thanks so much for sharing your journey and story with our audience. We wish you continued success and good luck in this critical, pivotal moment as you're finding yet another way to continue to impact those young minds. We really appreciate the work you're doing, and continued congratulations and kudos to you on this journey. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.